President Erdogan. He's the long-serving leader of Turkey. Under his leadership, Turkey has become a regional powerhouse and one of the most controversial of the United States NATO allies. And of course, there was the infamous letter that Trump sent to Erdogan, urging him not to be a, quote, tough guy and a fool in Syria. A letter that Erdogan reportedly threw in the garbage.
Violence is increasing in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenia also alleges Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan in the battle.
Parliament Speaker says Turkey's actions risk destabilizing the region. Armenia is accusing Turkey of sending Syrian mercenaries to Azerbaijan.
Turkey has a large defense industry. It manufactures ammunition, vehicles, drones.
Live from the UK, broadcasting around the world, you're listening to Talking Minaret, discussing matters that affect you, streaming to the world and beyond.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Minaret. We previously talked about Palestine and the deal of the century. Thought it'd be beneficial to catch up on Turkey and Erdogan. He's made some big moves recently, I'm sure you're aware. Are things changing for the Ummah though? Or are things only changing for Turkey? That's a big question mark. Recently, you might have heard about the whole Armenia and Azerbaijan conflict. UN Security Council called on Armenia and Azerbaijan to immediately halt fighting over the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh and urgently resume talks without precaution. Erdogan said Armenia's immediate withdrawal from the region was the only way to ensure peace. Nearly 100 people, including civilians, have been killed since the violence erupted. Armenia has aspirations to occupy certain areas close to Tavruz that overlook Azerbaijan's oil and gas pipelines, which are of strategic importance to Turkey. We know that the US Congress is sympathetic towards the Armenians, maybe somehow connected to the Russo-Turkish rift over the Libyan issue. But let's go into this. Armenia took advantage of the strained relations due to Turkey and the Libyan issue, and Turkey's differences with Russia in Libya and also Idlib. This indicates that it was Russia who incited Armenia to attack Azerbaijan in order to incite the pro-Armenian lobby in the US Congress, thus surrounding Turkey with some kind of isolation. Russia is attempting to distract Turkey's efforts and engross her in new fronts, and which would force her to make concessions in Libya. Russia is a long-standing ally of Armenia, and it has supplied the country with enormous supplies of arms since the end of the war with Azerbaijan in 1994. Armenia and Azerbaijan fought a vicious war in the 1990s over the Nagorno-Karabakh, a majority ethnic Armenian enclave, which nominally falls under Azerbaijan's jurisdictions. The region gained de facto independence at the end of the war and has developed deep ties with Armenia, but its status remains a source of hostility between the two sides. Bit of background: Armenia's Prime Minister, Nikol Pashinyan, came to power following a wave of protests linked to the colored revolutions. Pashinyan most probably loyal to Russia because he only succeeded in acceding to power with the help of the ruling Republican Party of Armenia, whose membership includes those who have links to Russia. Armenia is a strategic location for Russia, hosting several Russian military bases. Russia dreads Western attempts to lure Armenia through partnership deals and turn her towards NATO. At the same time, with the Russo-Turkish rift over Libya, America hopes it would lead to a collision between Moscow and Ankara. And we can see this in the persistence of the US-affiliated Government of National Accord GNA of Libya on entering Sirte and Al-Jufra, while Russia and Egypt tried to confront GNA's raid on the two cities. This is why Turkey is attempting to convince Russia to allow the GNA forces to enter Sirte without any fighting, but Russia wants Al-Jufra in return. Meanwhile, the crisis between Armenia and Azerbaijan erupted to open a new issue that would compel Turkey to require Russia's assistance, thus burdening Erdogan further with the aim of dissuading him from backing the GNA forces in Libya. US Congress has always been sympathetic towards the Armenian stance in their dispute against the Turks. America wants to also lure Armenia and sever her links to Russia. This is also corroborated by a host of indications such as Armenia's aspirations to occupy certain areas close to Tartus that overlook Azerbaijan's oil and gas pipelines, which are of strategic importance to Turkey, Europe, and the so-called State of Israel. Turkey has differences with Russia in Libya, as mentioned before, and Idlib. So therefore, because as mentioned, Turkey having differences with Russia and Libya and Idlib, it definitely indicates the fact that Russia was the one who incited Armenia to attack Azerbaijan, who has close ties with Turkey, in order to attract the French and European pressure on Turkey and incite a pro-Armenian lobby in US Congress. Therefore, to do with the isolation tactics against Turkey. So, from this we know the fact that Turkey is being engrossed in new fronts which would force it to compromise on other issues, like Libya. The good thing is that Turkey is operating on a case-by-case basis. In Libya, she cooperates with America against Russia and France, irrespective of America's long-term policies for Libya and North Africa, and in Syria. She cooperates with Russia regardless of the Russo-American understandings. Hence, Turkey carves her way in international politics on the basis of her interests rather than affiliation. So some of you may ask the question, is Turkey becoming a superpower? So it's recently been reported Turkey has realized the greatest natural gas discovery in history. Erdogan stressed that this would help the country become a game changer. Turkey imports its gas mainly from Russia and Azerbaijan and Iran. But being an energy exporter doesn't necessarily mean independence, does it? For example, look at Saudi Arabia. I'm seeing reports that Turkey will not be able to build plants in the deep sea water to get to the gas on its own because it lacks the expertise needed for the job. But so far, it has been able to search for gas without partners. Turkey said that this country had made the discovery without the need to spend billions on outside firms. There was a recent report that Turkey is heading to becoming a superpower as it has been moving towards full independence. It has been spreading its culture across the world and attracts a large number of international tourists. More people are watching Erdogan. More people are watching Erdogan. But we need to ask ourselves, what makes a superpower? Does the state in question have a comprehensive idea that it wants to implement across the world, along with a method to implement and spread it and protect it, like America does with its capitalism? It can be said the people in Turkey are Muslim and they do hold a comprehensive idea, i.e. Islam. But whether they have a comprehension of the capability of that idea or not is a different question. Something else that the audience might have heard of is the tensions and escalations in the Eastern Mediterranean that have been intensified between Turkey and Greece over Ankara's hydrocarbon exploration efforts in Eastern Mediterranean. Erdogan warned there would be a heavy price for anyone attacking the Turkish drilling vessel, which is exploring for oil and gas in waters claimed by both Turkey and Greece. Large reserves of oil and gas were discovered in the region a decade ago. The estimates are worth trillions of dollars in the surrounding countries, even at today's prices. It may be said that America, for her part, is not averse to the Turkish activity in the Eastern Mediterranean and other areas such as Libya, as she endeavors to generate a host of hotspots through which America would control the countries, recapturing those states in a pretext to involve NATO as an umbrella to settle disputes. Therefore, by turning a blind eye to Turkey's activity in Libya and Eastern Mediterranean, America aims to raise the stakes of her silence as she attempts to bring Turkey back to the house of obedience. And Greece is assisting her in this endeavor. This placed Turkey in a minefield within shooting range of the US affiliated states such as Egypt and the Emirates, which are very eager to partake in joint military maneuvers with the so-called State of Israel and Greece. The Mediterranean is linked to national security from the side of the Aegean Sea, through which Greece wants to blackmail Turkey in respect to the Cypriot issue, controlling the Turkish trade routes and plundering Turkey's rights to the gas of the Mediterranean. So, how else is the event linked to America's goals? Does it want to subdue the states within the region? And how are the Europeans reacting to this? Stirring up the Eastern Mediterranean front serves America's aims pertinent to controlling Europe and preventing her from being independent in her policies towards Russia and China. The escalation is set to be settled within NATO's framework, since Turkey, Greece and France are member states of the organization. The Pentagon expressed this narrative by stating recently that it was obviously concerned, and US Department of Defense Jonathan Hoffman said that France and Turkey are both extremely important allies of NATO, and we would like to see tensions decrease. As for France, she has been acting eagerly in an attempt to seize the initiative in Europe after the exit of Britain from the EU. This was reflected in Macron's visit to Lebanon.
Also, France, which is part of an international group trying to mediate the truce, has criticised Ankara for what it calls war-like rhetoric. French President Emmanuel Macron says any Turkish involvement in the fighting would be unacceptable.
At this stage, I remain extremely cautious, but we know it's an extremely volatile situation. That said, I have noted Turkey's political declarations in favor of Azerbaijan, which I think are inconsiderate and dangerous. France, as part of the Minsk group, which requires the impartiality which explains my caution, remains extremely concerned by the warlike messages coming from Turkey in the last few hours.
In relation to Turkey and how it's acting on a case-by-case basis and using other states to fulfill its own foreign policy objectives, on September 2nd, 2020, Turkey announced 2 new naval exercises in the Eastern Mediterranean for Russia to conduct live ammunition exercises in the gas exploration area. And the first date was set between 8th and 22nd of September, with the second being the 17th to the 25th of September. What is remarkable in these Russian drills is that they will take place near the areas in which France and Greece carried out joint military maneuvers. The question is, will the Eastern Mediterranean energy crisis lead to fresh political and military alliances? Russia has her own interests in the Eastern Mediterranean, not only due to her military presence in Syria, but also because of what America and Europe are concocting in terms of constructing gas pipelines for the Eastern Mediterranean towards Italy and Bulgaria to reduce Europe's total dependence on Russian gas. America, Europe and Israel backed pipeline, especially the South Caucasus and the Turk Stream pipeline, which would prevent her from interfering with the East Med pipeline, which is believed to supply Europe and the so-called State of Israel gas in the future. It is known that America is attempting to prevent Russia from completing construction of the Nord Stream 2. Under the pretext that it undermines Europe's security, Donald Trump signed a law in December 2019 imposing sanctions on any company assisting Gazprom in completing the construction of that pipeline, which was designed to increase Russian gas exports to Germany, preventing Russia from continuing to export gas to Europe and substituting it with Eastern Mediterranean and American gas. Since Turkey has perceived a strategic Russian interest, and since Turkey is eager to dismantle the Euro-American alliance against her, Turkey will very likely exploit Russia's wishes and interests as a bargaining chip to achieve a strategic interest of her own. I talked about those Russian drills that are occurring in the Eastern Mediterranean. What's interesting is that the announcement of that didn't come via Russia, but it came via Turkey. Turkey wants to stress her sovereignty over the areas, allowing Russia to hold live fire naval drills. Turkey could be simply maneuvering by luring Russia into the struggle in the Eastern Mediterranean now that America has lifted the arms embargo on Cyprus. But not to establish an alliance with Russia against America, but to avoid making concessions to Russia in Libya and Syria, as mentioned before in the podcast. There have been reports stating that Turkey has become a star. Now Azerbaijan is rising. Muslims need to be taking more control of their political sphere and becoming more independent in their own affairs. We need to be more aware about all the issues that are happening within the Ummah. Can you imagine if Muslims were more aware when the American engineered Arab Spring occurred? Syria wouldn't have happened. Libya wouldn't have happened. I still know some Muslims who think that the Arab Spring was a revolution that just went bad. While Muslims are busying themselves with their personal worships, America is shaping the future of the Ummah on the basis of kufr, secularizing the Ummah. Did Allah not say, "You are the best nation sent to mankind. You enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil"? Classical Arabic dictionaries, Al-Fayruz Abadi in Al-Kumuz al-Muhid and Lisan al-Arab of Ibn Manzur, they refer to ordering people and enjoining and forbidding as siyasa, politics. Telling people what to do and making them abstain from certain actions is politics. Allah's Messenger ﷺ even addressed people in the markets. He taught them Islam and all of its rules. Final point, we as Muslims have responsibilities towards other Muslims. What's happening in Libya isn't for the Libyan people. What's happening in Palestine isn't for the Palestinian people. It's an Ummah issue. So join us next week. Should be an interesting podcast. Thanks for listening. Assalamu alaikum.